Welcome to Maverick Mind, the podcast. If you are a creative soul, really ready to unlock your potential and design your path to freedom on your terms, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Ellie, designer, entrepreneur, yogi, and coach, and consider this your home to dive into the mindset, energy, and strategy to fast track your way to success. I'll also introduce you to some of the most creative, visionary, and maverick minds I know to share their insight, to feed your curiosity, and to inspire your next creation. I'm so happy you're here, so let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Maverick Mind. I cannot wait to share this conversation with you. When I had a vision for this podcast, I had this idea of creating this audio space to share everything that I know about creating creative success and pursuing your own life of freedom for yourself. And I also wanted to bring you the most uplifting, empowering, and inspiring conversations of people defying the odds, people going against the grain, doing their own thing and following their own path. And today's guest is the absolute embodiment of that. I cannot wait to share this conversation with you. This week, I am joined by Hannah Sucsy. She is aka Teascarlet. She is an artist and a gallery owner from rural Idaho. She went all in on her art business just 2 years ago and has since shown pieces in New York and at the Carousel du Louvre in Paris. However, her art and her heart really come alive in her own gallery space in rural Idaho. She's a real pioneer and champion of community art. She's a real activist in that way, which is just so incredible to see. To bring people together through community art projects is just such a powerful mission. And she's done all of this, by the way, whilst being a newly single mother of 4. Yeah. We dive into so much. This conversation is so inspiring, from pursuing a dream and pursuing a vision that maybe some people will tell you is impossible, especially if you live in somewhere that's kind of small-minded, like a rural town. We talk about shedding the identity of starving artist and stepping into abundant artist or mission-driven artist. We go against the grain into maybe claiming a path and claiming a vision that really feels right for you rather than what looks right on the outside, and just so much more. I really think a lot of you will resonate and feel so inspired by this conversation. So as always, if you love it, do share it with your friends. And if you share it on social media, tag me at Maverick Mind Co and tag Hannah at Teascarlet. And we would love to know your biggest takeaways. We'd love to know your feedback. Without any further ado, let's dive in. This is Hannah Sucsy, aka Teascarlet. Hey Hannah, big warm welcome to you. Welcome to Maverick Mind. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm really excited to dive into your story and hear all your pearls of wisdom on living this creative life. To begin with, I would love to ask for something that you really champion is kind of community art and bringing people's awareness into creativity on like a grassroots or a community level. So I'd really love to hear first what got you into that mission and how it's evolving where you are in Idaho.
Yeah. Well, I didn't start out with the gallery thinking, oh, I'm going to change the community. I'm going to do this. But some of it came about really organically. It just happened. So I have a gallery here and it's all my own work. And people, a lot of artists would come to it and ask if they could show their work in my gallery. And I said, no, it's just mine. And then I think the first thing that I did that was community minded was I would be working inside all day and it's so nice outside, and I look out the windows and I decide, you know what, I'm going to go do some art on the sidewalk just with chalk. And it was like this magnet. It was every kid that passed by, you could just see them looking at their parent like, "Oh, can I do that too?" And and it grew, and then I had this huge chalk the block event last year, and instead of like other cities have chalk festivals, like street art kind of festivals with professional artists. And I wanted the message to be, this is for everyone. This art is for everyone. Come make your mark on the world. Add a little bit of beauty to the world. So that was kind of the first thing. And that really opened my eyes, I think, to how so many people are wanting to be creative, but it's like they need permission. It's like they need somebody to say, okay, you can do this too.
Absolutely. I've definitely noticed that as well along my journey through many different iterations. I think that maybe it's something from school. I don't know, like you go to an art class and you're not the most artistic in the class and you get this belief that I'm not the most artistic, therefore I'm not
Right.
creative.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you can be both, but you can also be each. You can be creative but perhaps not artistic, or you can be, both artistic and creative, which I think most artists are. And yeah, I think there is this sort of self permission is like, can I play with that? I don't know if I'm allowed.
Right. Yes.
But
Yep.
something like that event is so powerful. I mean, it really brings me back to this image of I've spent so much time in India. For people listening will know that I've been a yoga teacher for like 12 years and I've done a lot
Mhm.
of trips to India. And in India, drawing on the floor with chalk is a really big thing. There's people that do it every single day. They draw
Yeah.
these things called rangolis outside their house in chalk, and you'll see like old ladies drawing these incredibly big like mandala like
Oh,
things right
cool.
outside their house. They're supposed to bring wealth into the house, invite Lakshmi into the
Yeah.
house. And it does really grab your attention when you see someone doing that. I think maybe because it's not something that's done in Western culture at all, to be that
Yeah.
playful, to be like, I'm just gonna draw right here on the street. And it's not like you're causing harm or anything, it'll wash off in the rain. But that's
Exactly.
such a powerful thing to both bring people together, but also, I suppose, maybe not consciously, but to attract people to you as an artist too.
I think so, because I think with the idea of an art gallery, a lot of people have this idea that it's not for them, because I have a lot of people that will say, I don't know anything about art, or I don't really know I don't really know anything about it, but I really like that one and I don't know why. But it's like they open the door and feel like they don't belong in an art gallery until they talk to me, and then once they talk to me they realize exactly that. It's just like, this is for everyone. Like, you don't have to. I didn't go to art school. I didn't. I'm just here making pretty things.
Yeah, I mean, again, I definitely think that's for sure a culture that we have, because I think that art galleries are somehow seen as this like kind of elitist place, or like
Right.
either somewhere that only people that are super interested in art go,
Hmm.
or maybe the more independent ones are where people who are really rich go to buy really expensive paintings. But
Hmm.
actually, you do have permission just to walk around,
Right. Right.
just to witness what's going on and to admire something that somebody has made. And it doesn't have to be this big or elitist or kind of hoity-toity
Right.
environment to be in.
Right. And that's I really find that when I'm in the act of creating, whether I'm painting in the gallery or doing chalk outside the gallery, either one. I mean, a lot of the times I just sit on the floor to paint, and that's another thing that takes the I don't know, the mystery, or this like other level, takes it out of it. I mean, I might be sitting there on the floor with my shoes off, and when somebody comes in, it's a different type of invitation for them to experience art.
Yeah, I mean, I guess especially with you being on the floor, because again, it's not, the typical someone painting on an easel or something and it being this quite structured thing. It's no, I'm just
Right.
sitting down here, I'm
Yeah.
on floor level and I'm having a play.
Right.
I'd love to dive into a bit of your story about becoming like a full-time artist and gallery owner, having never studied art. Like, how did you get into it? Is it something that you were always into, but maybe you didn't go to university for, or was it like a snap, something that just happened?
Um, Both in different ways. So I was always creating things as a kid, just painting, drawing, mostly drawing and charcoal and some pen and ink when I was in high school. And I started out, curious about, quote, being an artist. And but my dad was a photographer, and I saw him, that was his profession. And I saw him struggle with that, of doing the thing that he loved that really wasn't making a good living for his family. And, weighing that with going and getting a job to just make money. And he went back and forth and he kept coming back. No, photography, I've got to do this. And so I had this thing in me, like, I really shouldn't, I really shouldn't try and be an artist, pursue that, because the path is so difficult. Um, and got the message also from, I think, I don't know that anybody said these words to me, but the message I got from family, school probably, was, don't be an artist, get a real job. And so I went to college, got an English degree for teaching, and then got married very young, um, had kids, so for then about 15 years or something, I was doing a very different type of creating. I was creating a life, with my kids and my then husband. And I was saying to a friend the other day, I hate that I didn't do any art for that whole time. And she said, no, but you were creating this life with your kids. That was your art. Was the Play-Doh and the stomping in puddles and the noticing pretty leaves on the walk. Um, so anyway, fast forward, I've had several back surgeries, a lot of pain that I've gone through, and it all sort of came to a head in 2015 and 16 with some really, I had a really horrible hip reconstruction, and the recovery was not what what was expected. And there was a period of a month after the surgery where I thought I would never walk again. Um, the surgeon nicked the nerve, and so there was just a lot. And at that time, my kids were, I think the youngest was 4 and the oldest was 12, somewhere in there. So I had 4 little kids, thought I would never walk again. All these things that I love to do, hike and take them outside, and all of this was just, I just watched it fall away, and that was a really low moment. Not one moment, but that stretched into some years. And while I was recovering, I started doodling just on paper that I had brought with me to the hospital to write thank you notes for the people that were taking care of my kids and bringing meals and doing all that. And I started doodling, and I doodled lyrics and scriptures and quotes, like anything encouraging that I could find. I would write it down. I needed something. I needed it physical. I needed to touch something and to take those words and make it concrete. And then I started doodling and drawing around it, and then ended up making this mural, like just lined the papers up next to each other on my lap, and then put it all together when I could finally stand up, and it was this 4 by 8 foot mural. And so that was kind of my first, like, that's what I remember as starting to actually get back into my art and my creating something visual and physical. Um, and then in terms of turning into a full-time artist, uh, several years later, divorce, life just sort of scattered in all directions. And I was looking around going, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for a living? And I was sitting on my mom's floor. We were staying at her house, and I had job applications for to go bartend, all these different things. And I was doing yard work for people. And I decided then that, okay, this thing that's inside of me that has been sort of asleep for so long, this creativity, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a living with my art. And at that point it was painting, uh, music and photography. So all three of those things. Um, and then I jumped in, and little by little, the art, the painting, that became bigger and really clear that, okay, this is what I'm going to put everything into. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's such a inspiring story. Do you find I think I witness a lot with people, especially those who have not been to university or school for whatever it is they want to do. They have again this barrier of giving themselves permission or feeling good enough to really go after what they want. Do you think it was coming from such a tough place that just gave you that like, fuck it, this is time I'm going to do this? Or do you think there was a barrier and you kind of had to give yourself that permission?
I mean, it goes back and forth. There are days when, yeah, it's like, okay, I am. I don't know if you've heard the book "You Are a Badass,"
Yeah, yeah.
Jen Sincero. So yeah, so when I got in I mean, that was part of it. I got in my new house, and I finally had this place with me and my kids, and it was amazing. And I was redoing the floors. I started working on all this myself, and somehow stumbled upon this audiobook on YouTube and was listening to it. And that idea that there are people out there, I think she equates it to writing books, right? There are people out there writing and selling books, and they're terrible. They're terrible writers, and they're doing
True.
it. And so, there was, in some ways, there's like, okay, well, there's people buying art every day. Why not mine? Like, there's people doing this, and I think that looks terrible. So I'm going to do what I think looks beautiful, and why not? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I think often we get trapped in this idea of like, to be an artist, you've got to be the sort of the big version of whatever you want to do. You've got to be on in the fancy gallery. You've got to be on the arena stage if you're a musician. You've got to be, the
Mhm.
$1 billion business or $1 million business or whatever it is. And I think that if you really have that vision and it feels really true for you, like by all means go for it. But I think to begin with, you really have to give yourself permission to like, well, if someone's buying art from them, why
Yeah.
why not me? If not me, who?
Right.
If not now, when? And I
Right.
think that goes definitely for like whatever creative path you're on. There's always going to be a tribe for you, and it's never been an easier way to find it because we have like the
Right.
internet and stuff now.
Right.
And like going back to what you said earlier about carrying that belief that being an artist is not a real job, I think that a lot of us have that, and it's kind of
Hmm.
because generationally you had to wait for permission for the gallery to take your art piece. Now you
Right.
could create your own gallery. Why
Yeah.
not? Or
Exactly.
just sell it online. It's never been easier to make your mark as a creative, and I think that's such an empowered thing to do. To say like, have that awakening to say like, well, why can't I?
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody's doing it. And I when I started out, uh, saying, okay, I'm going full time, I did have that view of like, okay, I need to get in galleries. And so for several months, I pushed really, really hard in that direction and got into a show in New York in East Hampton. I mean, that is the art world. There's Jackson Pollock House there, and like there's a gallery on every corner, and all of like Long Island, Montauk. And so I did. I sold my little car, bought a minivan again, even though I had sold it when my kids got bigger. Yeah, went back to a minivan so that I could fit my art in, drive it across the country to New York to be in this show. And, I from there I got my art in two New York galleries and another show in New York, and then started working with the Toronto gallery. They took my art to Paris, and so those were all the things that felt like, okay, this is it. This is what you have to do. And so I was still on that path, looking for more galleries where I thought I needed to be. And then this space opened up for lease in my small town. My town is 2,500 people, and it has these big, beautiful windows. And I saw this space and I thought, okay, that's crazy. And it's like, well, the amount that I spent to get to that New York show would be about 4 months rent here in this space. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to sign a 6-month lease. I'm going to try it. And this is, we'll see. And it was like the second my art was in this space, that clicked. And what you're saying about your tribe and finding your people, I mean, people have been buying my art in tiny little rural Idaho far more than I sold at any of those other places.
Yeah, do you find that it feels like people are appreciative of your art more on like the smaller scale or like the more local scale than on the big scale, or do you feel it's just a different crowd?
I think there is an appreciation because there's not a gallery on every corner. And I mean, there are a lot of kids here who don't have have never come across the concept of an art gallery. They walk in here and they go, "What is this?" And and so there is, in that sense, a uniqueness to what I'm doing, because you don't find a lot of that. There are lots of artists here in the county, but it's not displayed in this way very often.
Wow. Um, and then going into kind of opening that as a business, I suppose, which is something that a lot of creators kind of struggle with, the businessy side of things. I'd love to know maybe like a few challenges that you faced starting to kind of view that gallery as your business too.
Oh man, so
Where do
many.
we begin?
Yeah, exactly. Where do we even start? Yeah, I mean, before the gallery, it was, some sales here and there with Instagram, and then those, the things in New York. But no, with the gallery, I mean, I didn't even know that I needed a a business license for my city. I knew I needed something with the state, set that up. And one day somebody came in from the city saying like, here's the thing that you're supposed to have. You need to fill this out. Um, but I did. When I opened the gallery, I decided I'm going to treat this as a business, not just a space where I'm open whenever I feel like it. Because there are a lot of places here in a small town where it's like, oh, I have something going on this afternoon. I'm randomly closed. And that was one thing I decided was, nope, I'm going to have these set hours, and I'm going to hire somebody to be here when I'm not here, because I want people to see this as a place like, okay, if I stumbled on it, wow, this is amazing. Oh, my sister's in from out of town. I'm going to take her, and I don't want them to come to, see that it's closed. Um, so then that brought on the whole thing of payroll, and I'd never been a boss before, and just assumed that everybody would, be as enthusiastic about work, the work that I'm doing as I am. Um, gosh, the setting up, I mean, I had a website before, but setting up a point of sale system and figuring out the financial part of it, of with art, there's so many different expenses, and how do I categorize all, just, yeah, so many challenges.
Yeah, with that, I think a lot of people struggle, especially painters or artists, struggle to like make up a price for what they're doing. But I guess for you, like, especially when you're having this space and hiring people and wanting to take it seriously, you are kind of creating that space and your art as like a brand. And when you have that
Yes.
umbrella, I think it's easier to price things because you take into account all the stuff that you have to pay for, which is many things. But
Right.
also it's kind of like a price that aligns with the kind of brand that you wanna create. I mean, when you take that something like that on, and you kind of have to be this like boss person that maybe you didn't envision for yourself
No.
before. Did you find it then really hard to balance, like when you're creating and when you're like the boss person?
Very much. Yes. I find myself saying to myself almost every day, okay, Hannah, you're not going to get everything done on the list. Write down whatever's left and stop. Close the laptop, go paint. And because it's never ending. And so learning how to delegate has been difficult, and that's something that is still a challenge. And now I have my assistant now is amazing. Anything I say, I'd like to look into, or let's create this system, she just, even if she's never done it before, she Googles it, like how to, whatever the thing is. And so that's great. But yeah, choosing which things to have somebody else do, um, even down to things like, can you email this person for me? And, whatever, ask this question. Um, that's a challenge to to decide what to delegate, and then to try and tell somebody, here, I need you doing these things, but I've never done it before. So you know so I'm really building, I'm building as I go. I don't have it all figured out, so I think that's difficult to have an assistant when I don't know what I'm doing either.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that again, that's like quite a powerful thing for the listeners to remember, because a lot of us, I think, when you're going through something like starting a business, you think you have to know everything, when like we know from experience that we know nothing. Um, and then a little bit down the line, you gather that information or you find it from somewhere, you build this like resourcefulness muscle where you can just Google stuff or put yourself in
Yes.
spaces where with people that will figure it out, or if it's people being around people that maybe know more than you can learn more from somebody else or learn from someone further down the road to kind of get these little bits of information. But you absolutely do not know what the hell you're doing day one of
Right.
starting a business. Like, no way.
No. Nope. And I've heard other entrepreneurs say that, like, if I mean, it's true for me. If I had known all the work that would go into this, I would have run screaming. Um, and it's good that I didn't. I'm glad that I jumped in. I mean, this is amazing getting to do this. And yeah, there are days when I'm discouraged, and I look at my numbers, I look at sales for this month or something, and start fearing again, um and then, but yeah, it's a choice, like, okay, well, I can figure out how to make this work, or I can go just shut it down and go work for somebody else. And then that's the kick in the pants, always,
Yeah.
like, that has me go, okay, well, figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, how do you kind of gather that resilience? Because I mean, I suppose in times like that, where the numbers aren't great or something, when you've got people to whose wages you need to pay, but also you're a mother of four and you have this family that you need to provide for, is there anything that you do or kind of help anything that helps give you that like fire in the stomach of like, nope, we're gonna keep going?
Um, I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, I don't feel like I have another choice because I've already lived the other way. I already
Mm.
know what that is. And what that is it feels safe, and so you never step out. And because you never step out, it's like your soul just lives in this very small place. And I've already done that. And I don't have any desire to go back. And so that safety of not worrying about the paycheck to me is not worth everything else that means.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. I think that once you've, even though this path is not easy, once you've tasted it, I think you can't really go back, or it's really, really hard to go back. Because you're creating the art itself, but also you're creating again, like you said about with your kids when they were younger, you're creating this life. You're bringing this vision of this gallery to life, and also the lifestyle that comes with that. And it must be also really, really inspiring for your kids to watch you kind of do that. Like be the boss person and give yourself permission to go after what you want and give yourself permission to be a professional painter and kind of go after the freedom rather than shrinking back into that safe space.
Yeah, I think since I opened the gallery and my kids have seen, the public response, or just, they're in here one day when somebody comes in and they're just gushing over what they see. I think for my kids, they're kind of realizing like, oh, this is legit, Um, because their dad is a dentist. He has this, thriving dental practice. And so for their whole lives, dad has a job. And even when I started to paint and really turn this into my real thing, I was doing it in my house. And so people would ask, what does your mom do? She doesn't work, and it's just like, ah! And so now, I mean, that's definitely changed, I think, in their view. And then the other thing is, I went through this period during all that pain where I dyed my hair bright, bright red, like, you know, looked like a whatever punk rocker or something, and wore lots of, dark makeup and black everything and stuff, and was like, wanting to be a badass. And so made myself feel that way from the way that it looked. And I think now, I quit dyeing my hair, whatever, a little bit of makeup, but just kind of, um, and, and it's like, no, I am a badass. And I don't, whatever, I don't really care about what I wear because I don't need black, you know, something to make me look like a badass. I don't know. I just am.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely you are. And yeah, I think that's again something that a lot of people will really resonate with because I think a lot of creatives we do get stuck in this trap sometimes of like, oh, if I look creative,
Yeah,
maybe then I will be perceived more creative by other people. Or if I look like kind of wacky, maybe that means that people will remember me. Or
right.
maybe I'll feel a bit more badass in myself if I am. I mean, I think sometimes people, we do need that sometimes. And maybe that's me saying that because I come from a fashion background. But I think it's cultivating this thing that I'm so passionate about people finding of an inner feeling of freedom of like, you know what, actually I don't need any of that stuff. I don't need the red
Yeah,
hair. I don't need the crazy outfit, really. Like I just like I'm it. I am it.
right. And
And that's
sometimes,
enough.
yeah, putting something on because because you like it. It's part of the art. Like, it's not that any of that is bad. Like sometimes, yeah, like sure, let's put on leather pants and do something fun,
Yeah.
like, but to but looking for that, yeah, it's just a shell if there's nothing inside.
Yeah, that's so true that these things are fun. And I think that sometimes dressing in a certain way that makes you feel a certain way can sometimes unlock some kind of creative level within you if it feels authentic to you. If it's a
Right,
costume, then no, but if it really feels authentic for you, then yeah, it's a great thing. But I think you always have to keep coming back to like, it's not the shell I'm putting on that's giving me that creative voice. It's within me. It might be a vehicle for me to bring it out, but
right,
it's still coming from my badass self.
right. Yeah, that we can express that in all different ways. And um, yeah, I think when we're doing it for approval, for others' approval versus however it is, however we're expressing ourselves, whether it's, writing music and playing it, whether it's, um, what I'm doing now, painting, or, am I doing that? Am I doing that to express something that's inside of me, my voice, or am I doing that to make myself okay in somebody else's eyes?
Yeah, it's always coming back to that awareness, for sure. And kind of leaning on from there, what does your creative process look like? Are there specific things you do to feel really inspired or like free to create, especially when you've got the whole businessy stuff in your mind as well? Or is it kind of spontaneous every time you paint is something different?
Um, I have I have one part of me that just says, just go play. Just play. Get the paint out, don't think about, mapping everything out. Just go play. And there's that side of me, and there's that art that's abstract and free. And then I also have this, I paint a lot of trees, and people really like my trees. And some of them are, so I have these tiny little trees. They're like in this 3 by 5 inch frame, and they're so simple, and they're just, yeah, there's just something very unique and simple about them. And when I paint something like that, I sit, it's like I look at my shelf and I'm like, oh, I've sold, you know, several of those. I only have 3 left. Okay, I should paint some trees. And so there's, yes, there are things like that where I go, okay, these are good sellers. And, this is something, oh, I have this event coming up. I should have some small pieces available, so there is that. There's keeping the lights on, keeping the, keeping the rent paid. And there are things that I know will sell. And so I paint them. And but then so like for November, December, I had a bunch of things like that. People were buying small things as gifts, tons of that. So I painted trees, painted little tree ornaments. And January hit, and I was like, no more fucking trees, you know. Um, and I painted this. I allowed myself to experiment and try a portrait, which I hadn't done before. And so my process is really varied. It doesn't always look the same. Because I don't, I'm not in the same space every day. So yeah, there's gonna be a pretty wide range.
Yeah, I guess it's also when you are running your business, there is a balance, right? Between creating stuff that you just really want to create and then creating things that do keep the light on. And I mean,
Mhm.
that tree, the first one you did was probably from the place of joy because you really wanted to create that tree. But then after that, it becomes something that does keep things going and gives you then that freedom to play sometimes with something
Yeah,
new. Is
right.
there anything that you do or like anything that helps you if you're feeling blocked creatively?
I have been feeling blocked lately because I haven't been painting as much. And so then so it's like, then I go, okay, I need to paint. And then it's like, oh, what do I do? And just starting, just picking up a paintbrush. I mean, even when I think that I'm not, when I'm feeling blocked, if I just pick up the paintbrush, if I just sit down on the floor and start putting paint on the palette and start going, then it comes. And sometimes it's slow, but like yesterday was just getting paint onto canvases, painting the edges. I wasn't even doing like the painting. I was kind of doing the underpaintings, prepping my canvases, but even just that act opens something up. It unlocks something. And I think I mean, I see that so often. People are scared to start because they can't visualize what they want to create. And so they don't even start. And it's like just pick up a paintbrush, or just, for it's not paint for everybody, just sit down at the piano, just make some noise, just open your mouth and start, talking, and then you'll discover your voice. Like, you're not going to discover what you have to say if you never start.
Absolutely. I think it's really common to kind of overthink the end
Yeah.
of something. And then it really does block you from even beginning that thing. And that could be overthinking the vision of what that piece looks like, or what that song sounds like, or what that dance looks like. Or it could be overthinking the vision that you have for the journey that you're on. It could be like really overwhelming yourself with the big vision, which is a great thing to come back to. But also like, okay, here's the big vision. What am I doing now to get there? And if it's a painting, yeah, prep the canvas. Bring your attention out of your head into your body, into that
Mm-hmm.
paintbrush, and then it will unlock something. I think sometimes overthinking things and kind of really trying to have that all really clear in your mind does really stifle our creativity often.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that goes back to me thinking like, oh, I need to be in these galleries or whatever. And, but really just, yeah, paying attention. I mean, like this space, when it came for lease, when I saw it and it clicked, like, my art needs to be here. Paying attention to other things like that, you know, opens up opens up the next step in the journey, or the next piece of getting to, arriving at my vision or whatever. But it's like you get one step further, you get to this little mountaintop, and then you see, oh, there's that next one up there. Not in a sense of like never being satisfied or content, but just in the sense of, um I don't know. When I started this, I didn't have a vision for transforming my community and changing the way people value creativity. And now I'm like, that's the mountain, like I get to this little hill and then I'm like, oh man, can you imagine? And so then it's just bigger.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of following intuition, curiosity, and
Hmm.
play, I guess.
Yes.
I think we definitely have to open to those feelings of intuition. And when you're in those moments of like shoulding all over yourself, of like, I should
Hmm.
be in these kind of places, otherwise I'm not a real artist, or otherwise I haven't got a real job, or I should be this kind of person to be taken seriously. Instead, you wait for or you seek out those like full body yes moments, like when you found this gallery space,
Yeah.
and then keep chasing that feeling I'll
Right.
keep chasing that feeling of play. Like, you know what, actually today I feel like going to do chalk outside.
Right.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And that has brought trusting that that's something new for me. Asking myself, what do I want? What do
Mm.
I like? What am I feeling? And so opening, when I rented this space and opened the gallery, I said, I had all these people asking me things, and are you going to do lessons? Are you going to do this? And it was like, if it's not a hell yes, whatever the decisions are, whatever the different directions I could go, if it's not a hell yes, then it's no, or not now, you know.
Yeah.
And the times that I've trusted that and I've gone with that have proven, yep, it's on the right path. And when I've said, I don't really want to, okay, I guess I'll do that, then it's like, oh, come on, get back to that, finding the hell yeses.
Yeah, definitely. And trusting that when that voice comes through. And sometimes it's not very logical. Sometimes it
Right.
doesn't seem like the most logical next step or what everyone else is doing, but like trust that. And sometimes you have to go left to go right. And yeah, I think maybe the compound interest of having small movements when you have trusted that and it's worked out can kind of give you that trust to
Yes,
really follow it when there's a big thing like taking on a gallery.
absolutely. And that's helped me when I look back at those things that, yeah, seemed absolutely crazy. I mean, and I have people, it's still what I'm doing. A lot of people assume that I'm failing. They'll walk in here and like sort of this, "Well, are you selling art? How are you here? What are you doing?" And they don't believe that it's possible. And I have to be really careful to not allow that energy in, of assuming that I'm failing, taking on that identity as the starving artist. No, 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 I'm not that. Somebody else can have that. There are plenty of other artists out there who whine and complain all day long. Just like, oh, you can't make a living at art, you can't sell, nobody's buying. Like, people are buying art all the time. And if they're not buying your art, well, then you're not finding the people that are connecting with it. So that's my mission, is I'm going to find the people that connect with my art. Yeah, there's plenty of people that don't like it. It's not for them. That's okay. That's all right.
That's so true. And yeah, I think definitely so many do take on that persona or that belief, and we can carry other people's beliefs or thoughts with us, and they can really stifle our freedom and journey. And I think to make that empowered decision of like, actually, no, that belief is yours, not mine, and it's not coming with me where I'm going. I don't have
Right.
space for it in my body to take with me.
Right.
It's so powerful, and I think that must take a lot of strength to do. Especially, I can imagine in a small town there would be a lot of people that are like, "Oh no, that's not possible. You can't do that, and that's crazy." I mean, I don't know if like people close to you maybe even believe that. I mean, I know a lot of people struggle with that. So, are there anything that you do specifically, or maybe in moments where you did start to take on that belief that gave you that strength of back to like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do?
Man. Um, I think like you said, kind of the little things that you stepped out and it resonated, or it affirmed the gut feeling. And so for me, something has been watching how other people value my art, how when somebody comes in and connects with it so deeply, to take out their wallet, to buy this thing, to have it in their home. My art, the thing that I created out of my imagination or whatever, is so valuable to that person. And it's beyond the monetary, because I've had people say to me, having this thing on my wall reminds me of hope, or I see in it this strength, or these different things that people have said, the healing. that comes from it. And so that's helped me value my art more than I did even when I opened the gallery. And so, that's something that reminds me, no, I do have something in me that's unique, that nobody else could express this way. So I need to keep doing it. Like I tell other people the world needs your art. And so I have to tell myself that too. There's some days when I wake up feeling it, and there are some days when I need to kind of preach it to myself, no, keep doing it. The world needs it, you know?
Yeah, people don't understand the power of a self pep talk. Like sometimes you do have to
Right.
like really pep yourself up and it will feel cheesy and a little bit cringe, but it's really where the magic's at, I'm sure. And yeah, I come across a lot of artists specifically that struggle maybe to see the impact their art can have. They feel like it's a little bit self-indulgent. But I think that those messages that you're getting from people are something that I see a lot. It's like, okay, for you, it seems like healing what you're painting. And it might seem a bit
Mhm.
self-indulgent, but for the person receiving it, that painting makes them feel calm when they come home after a really busy day. And
Yeah.
that is like definitely an impact I want to have. So it's really great that
Absolutely.
you get that feedback, I suppose, face to face in an online world. Face to face, people will come and say that to you. That's so incredible.
Yeah, that's one thing that I love the face-to-face connection and people seeing my work in person. And that's something that is hard because I'm trying to grow. And, with a business, like you're trying to scale, you're trying to, um, figure that out. But I haven't figured out the online space. People aren't buying my work online, even though it's available. People go to my website, but they're not, they're buying it when they come in the gallery in person. And, so that's something that I I'm still curious about is, what to do online. So um yeah, I don't know.
There are ways for sure, but I think at the same time to kind of have that foundation of meeting so many people in person and seeing their reaction in person, I think is really invaluable, even just to give the foundation and strength to grow to the online space. I
Mhm.
mean, as you do grow and scale, will it always just be your art in the gallery, or do you think you would take on other artists too?
So I think for the gallery, for the permanent stuff, it's just mine. And I've found, there have been a couple things that I've done, little pop-ups, or like I'm really passionate about kids and helping young artists have a place. I've done like a youth artist market where they showed their work in my gallery. I've hosted, like I've been part of putting on group shows. Um, and I what I envision is not so much putting other people's work in here as maybe, I don't know, facilitating, sort of like helping people find the art that they love just through my connections with other artists. I'm not sure. I I'm putting t- I'm doing an artist studio tour uh, in September, and so that's something where I'm using my reach and my resources to put together something where people can see other artists' work. Um, so I have a friend here who she does wood art, and we've collaborated on a couple pieces, and that's been really fun. But she and I are interested in that type, kind of exploring that space a little bit, is, putting on shows with other people's work.
Yeah, interesting, exciting. I guess it'll be another kind of curious exploration until one day you get that full body heck yes, this is what we're gonna do now.
Yeah,
Well, this
exactly.
is the next
Exactly.
iteration.
Yes. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
incredible. I'm excited to watch that unfold. I feel like I could talk to you
You.
forever, Hannah, but it seems like a good time to slowly start to wrap up. Of course, I'll pop all the links to everything in the show notes. But just for people who are perhaps listening and on their phones already, where can
Yeah.
everyone find you to see your art, to connect with you and social media, etc.?
Teascarlet.com is my website, and I'm on Instagram. That's where I post mainly, and then also have a Facebook page. So yeah, but for behind the scenes, kind of see a little bit of my dorky self and my, cheesy reels, check out Instagram.
Everyone loves a cheesy reel.
Oh yeah, I'm good at
Love
that.
that. Amazing. Well, thanks again so much for coming on. This has been such an absolute major pleasure to chat with you. And I think everyone will have so many inspiring nuggets from that conversation. So thank you again so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Maverick Mind. I hope that you've loved it, and if you have, I would appreciate it so much if you would subscribe and write a 5-star review on wherever you're listening to this podcast from. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, I invite you to join me over on Instagram at maverickmindco or on my website maverickmind.elliefoden.com. And I'll see you in another podcast very, very soon.